Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reggie Sweat channel. This is something I'm very excited about to have a guest here on the channel, and her name is Tali Kentof, and she is a doctor in functional medicine and many, many other certifications. I'm sure she can share that with you. But I wanted to have her on this channel because being that we focus on basically health and longevity, anti-aging, and being over 50, especially because Tally happens to be in the same age bracket that I am. So I'm really happy to have you on the channel, Tally. Thank you for joining. And if you would share just a little bit about who you are and how you came to be who you are right now that I'm looking at is such a fabulous, beautiful, bright smile and skin looking amazing, and your health journey, and just to share a little bit about where it began and how it put you on that path to finding the answers.
Yes. Well, thank you, Reggie. Thanks so much for having me. It's very exciting to be here and to be with your live audience today. I have been on such an incredible, wild journey. And I can say that today I'm a completely different person than I was, say, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. And that's how it should be. We should always be changing and evolving and not being afraid to get out of the box and to change and evolve. But at one point in my life, as I said, was a completely different person. I lived in Florida and I was a pharmaceutical sales representative for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies. I sold a statin. I sold a proton pump inhibitor. So for GERD, heartburn. And I seriously thought that I was saving lives and saving the world. I didn't have the same perspective on things that I do now. And it was through me becoming sick from our very system that I was working for and looking for my own answers over a 15-year period where I progressively got worse and worse. And I became, within our own system, the system that I worked for, the system that I trusted, I became a medical nomad, going from doctor to doctor and specialist to specialist, asking questions. I had a list of over 50 symptoms, and they were starting to get very serious to the point where I was having difficulty just enjoying any quality of life or getting out of bed. I had joint pain, muscle aches, complete exhaustion, where I couldn't, even to breathe felt like such a laborious task. I had lost all my hair and was wearing a wig. I had a horrific anxiety, mood swings, depression, severe rapid aging. My skin, I just felt like I was aging in fast pace. And I had cystic acne. I had infections on my body that wouldn't heal. And I was in my early 40s and living a life like a woman who's in her late 80s and 90s. And at one point, I would have been eligible for hospice. That's how sick that I was. And I was even looking into assisted suicide because life just had no quality. And every doctor that I went to could not give me any answers other than it's all in your head and you're just getting older. And sometimes this happens to women, and it's early menopause. I was given hormone replacement, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and then just symptom management type of medications to handle the chronic migraines and to handle, I was told I was a closet eater. And that's why I was gaining weight, because little did I know, but I was secretly waking up and binge eating. And I would ask logical questions like, why is the food still there? Or how come I'm sleeping in my bed the whole night? Is this like a teleportation of some sort that I don't know about? But I wasn't being taken seriously, was the bottom line. And it was my own curiosity and my own digging and my own research that finally led me to what was the root cause of what was behind my symptoms. And that's when my life changed, because once you are able to uncover a truth that hasn't been exposed in that system that you trust with your health, once you know that, oh, this is what it was, and no one knew, nobody asked better questions, no one helped me to uncover this. And so for those of you who are watching and you don't know what my aha moment was that I was being poisoned by my breast implants that I thought were safe and effective and FDA approved, that every doctor was telling me, oh, these are safe and you got the safe kind because they are saline. So they're just full of salt water. It turned out in my case, mine were full of toxic black mold that had been leaking in my body for 15 years. And even after I'm the one who figured this out and had them removed and came with these pictures showing this is what came out of my body. And even at this point, when they saw this, these 20 doctors said to me, oh, that doesn't cause illness. You don't need to worry. You're fine. I'm like, well, what do I need to do to get this out of my body? I've been exposed to this for 15 years. How do I heal from this? And I was told, heal from what? There's nothing, this doesn't cause illness. And then I was also, I was so flabbergasted, their response to why mold doesn't cause illness. 1, penicillin, 2, cheese. And that's when I knew, like, I was like, all right, this is ridiculous. And so that's when I made the decision, all right, if I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to need to go back to school and I'm going to have to I'm going to have to take charge of my health. I'm going to go back to school and learn how to heal myself, and I'm going to do it. And that's what I did over a 9-year period. And I got my health back.
Yes, I understand. And that's why there's so many questions about all kind of pharmaceuticals, and that's why we're here. We're here to look for answers, and seeing that you have gone on that pathway. I appreciate you sharing that story. You know, a lot of the ladies here and men too do follow the channel. And so they want to know, what are the questions you should be asking a doctor when you're going to see a doctor? Or have you just given up on seeing doctors, specifically in the Western region of the system of medicine? Or, you know, learning of what you did, going into functional medicine and being a part of that society that really believes in natural healing? What would be your suggestion of where you would start first when there's so much noise coming at us from every direction? What would be your advice for seeking the first step you take when you know you're not well and you don't feel well, but you have all these symptoms, especially when we're talking about menopause, right? Because even with myself, I went through a lot of things of going through the natural route, and then I got onto the bioidentical because I couldn't even function and go to work. It was pretty bad. So a lot of us, different backgrounds and walks of life, have, you know, either very severe symptoms versus very light. But in your case, let's go back to talking about where you found out about the mold in the implants. And that's another thing. So anything that we insert in our body is foreign to the body, and we don't know how it's going to take, right?
Correct.
And you had the inserts for, what was it, 15 years or 10?
About 15, yep. In total, I had implants for 15 years.
Wow.
Yep.
And so you were about what age when you finally got those removed?
I was in my mid 40s when I had them removed, and I'm now 55. Okay. So, and I'm not on any hormone therapy. I was offered that when I went into menopause, which was a few years ago. And that's when just the weight came back on. I had already gotten over so many symptoms and felt like I was just completely in charge of my health and had learned everything. And then boom, life happens. That menopause came in, on a wrecking ball. And here it was. And I suddenly was rapidly gaining weight, and I had inflammation and joint pain and all these issues. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with this stuff all over again after I've just survived all of this and taken charge of my health. Right. And I went and saw some functional doctors. And there's a lot of different, even in functional medicine or in natural health, there's a large range and school of thought. So there's a lot of functional doctors, a lot of natural health practitioners who will automatically say, oh, you just need hormone therapy. Mm-hmm. And something told me, don't do it. Mm-hmm. Something said, no, there's more to the story. You figured it out, but you figured out a lot before. So just keep digging and see if you can find your own answers. And that's exactly what I did. And that's when I discovered cellular health and just a better understanding of what happens to us in midlife with our hormones, because we think we just shrivel up and die. And that's not the case. We don't shrivel up. And what we think of as aging and the symptoms that come with aging, I think that's a lie too. I think that, you can be 70 years old and be vibrant and alive and glowing. And it's like, well, what's going on here? When you can also be in your 30s. And I felt that way before and seen myself rapidly aging at a very young age. So there's a difference between biological age and chronological age. And we've been lied to about what is aging. And so when we look at even with hormones, what our bodies are brilliant, and they know that our bodies know what to do. And earlier in life, we have a lot of hormones in our body. And later in life, what happens is that our ovaries, or our sex hormones, our sex hormones, which are produced by our ovaries and our sex organs. So that stops, and we stop getting our period. And so that starts to back off. But here's the thing many people don't know, that there's another part of the body that now takes on the role of making sex hormones, and that our cells become more sensitive to those hormones. So now later on in life, we don't need a ton of hormones. We just need to be sure that our cells become sensitive to being able to detect and utilize these hormones properly. And then the other part of that is that our adrenals suddenly now take on this role. Now, they've taken on a lot through life because they're our stress response organ. So they take on a lot. And if we've spent a life chronic dieting and chronic stress and busy and go, and we've lived in this sympathetic nervous system that's just constantly under attack, then yeah, when this switch happens, our adrenals are going to struggle. And so what does it feel like when our adrenals struggle to take on this role, this extra job? It's going to feel like hot flashes. It's going to feel like fatigue. It's going to feel like anxiety, and that our stress response is off, because it is. And so once we address these issues that are happening, then all of a sudden these symptoms that we associate with menopause, because we've been sold, oh, this is the package of menopause. And then this is what you do. You just put tons of hormones in your body.
That's true. And that's kind of why we're here. And that's why I would love for you to explain to us about cellular health. And because that's where it leads to the root, right, of these issues. Mm-hmm. And how, for instance, I've taken a test that was, and I can't even remember the name of it now, but it is dealing with the adrenals, and was told that it was bottom out, zero, nothing. I had nothing. How am I living? And dealing with a functional medicine doctor. At the same time, it was replacing with a ton of other supplements. And that's kind of what put me aback, not only in your own budget, but at the same time, what direction do you go in? So maybe you can come and maybe explain to us what cellular health is. What does that mean for the woman going through menopause? And then where do we, in that sense of the term, is this where you find the answers to basically the Holy Grail?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think our fountain of youth is within us and within our control. Once we get a greater understanding of our cellular health, and it's for men and for women, because we all are just getting older or being told about this, and so men have cells too. So I don't want to exclude anybody, but at the cellular level, and this isn't somewhere that conventional medicine is looking. And maybe we haven't really learned a lot about our cells except for what we got in biology in ninth grade. And there we learned about a sexy part of the cell, the mitochondria. And everyone just kind of knew it as, oh, that's the powerhouse of the cell. And it's true. I used to think that there was, just because we used to see these models, and the models would have like one big mitochondria inside of it, and I'm like, oh, we have like one mitochondria in each cell. And that's not the case. We have thousands of mitochondria, and they're like, think of them as like little batteries that are in our cells, or like little engines. So they do have that role, but they do other things as well. So they're also kind of surveyors that are looking around, and they help with removing dead cells or removing dead mitochondria, kind of like plants. If you've ever, if you have a green thumb, or even if you don't, but you've seen that plants will get like brown leaves, and you have to actually prune those leaves away, so now the energy can get restored to that plant. And that's what our mitochondria does in our cell, in our cells. And when those get sludgy, and when our cells become full of toxins, or just when there's a dysfunction due to oxidative stress, or even due to our emotions, our thinking, what we think, what we feel, our environment. And so even that study of that is known as epigenetics. So it's not so much about the genes that we've been given. Oh, it's just my genetics. Oh, it's just because my mother's brother, sister's, nephew's, uncle, and then I just got it. That's just not how it works. That, yeah, we do have some like a 1% of what's going on with us. It might be a genetic component, but our epigenetics, which is our thoughts, our feelings, the chemicals that are being created in our body based on our thoughts and feelings, our environment, the toxins we're exposed to, all of these things actually play a role in whether this disease is going to be expressed or whether it's going to be turned off. So it's within our power to at the cellular level, at our genetic too, at our DNA level, to really turn things on or turn things off. And so when our cells aren't working properly, due to toxicity, due to maybe a cell danger response, where our cells just kind of shut down and say, I've had enough, or maybe nutrients aren't getting in, or maybe there's something that's going on in our guts that now is influencing how our cells are working. Because here's an interesting kind of fun fact, but our mitochondria is actually, like, its origin is a bacteria. And many people don't know this. And that it was passed down to us by our mother. So the mitochondria has its own kind of genetic coding within there. And that is not of our father, but of our mother. And on a spiritual level, it's like, well, why? Why is that? That there's so much more that we don't know or don't understand. But our cells work also as antennae. So, think of them, there's trillions of cells in our body, and they're acting as antennae. So not just to messengers like hormones and to nutrients, but also to our thoughts, to frequency, to our environment, to how we live our life. And so all of these things are influencing us at the cellular level. And so once you know how to tap into that and actually turn the genes onto, or turn our cells into being open to receiving good chemicals that are released in the body, and the right nutrients and the right cofactors to break down these raw materials that we naturally make, or that we're getting from food, or that we're getting from sunlight, or that we're getting just from living a positive, healthy lifestyle, that changes everything on the cellular level. And that's when things start to fall into place, because our bodies have the innate ability to heal. But many times we get in its own way because of our interventions, which aren't the conventional interventions, are literally causing more problems. So even on the case of antibiotics, here's something interesting. And antibiotics definitely have their place, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, there might be a situation where you need antibiotics.
Right.
But we definitely overuse them. But if we think back to the idea that the mitochondria is a bacteria,
Mm.
can you connect, think of the,
right.
So what happens when we take antibiotics, as far as how does that affect our mitochondria? And it makes me almost want to cry. It makes me want to cry inside. And it's not that necessarily conventional medicine is trying to do bad to us, because I know that there are fabulous doctors out there that went into medicine because they wanted to heal, to help people. But I don't think that conventional medicine has really looked deep into what our cellular health says about our overall health, how our mitochondria dictates how we age, how it dictates whether dis-ease or dysfunction happens in the body, because it all starts at that mitochondrial level, at that cellular level.
Yeah. And speaking of that, with our lifestyles, and that leads me to what we do in our daily living and our habits that affect our inner cells, right? The mitochondria. So that brings me to the diet. I love to know, what is the diet that you actually are on, and what helped you, especially when we're talking about belly fat and fat loss in general. Because when we say weight loss, everyone wants to lose weight, right? But really, at the same time, it means losing the fat, right? And that could look different on a scale, especially at this age now. So could you share what you do in your diet, or what did you transition from to get to the diet that really is giving you the response in your body in a healthy way?
Yeah. So I went from vegan to organic omnivore, where I was eating a lot of lean meats. So chicken and fish. So I was eating that, and I was eating lots of vegetables and juicing, lots of juicing. And I thought I was doing my body good. Gluten-free. I ate limited grains. And yet this was during that time when I was going through menopause, and I saw myself just gaining weight, having inflammation. These symptoms of just getting older were coming back. I had fatigue and brain fog, and I felt exhausted. I was doing lots of cardio. When I was exercising, I was power walking, and I was on the elliptical, and I was just like a little, like, creating my own little rat race. I was also working a lot and rushing and getting everything done and taking on lots of projects and lots of things. And I felt very burned out. But I thought I was doing all the right things. I'm exercising, I'm eating, I'm being careful, I'm reading labels, I'm eating lots of plant material, I'm eating all the lean meats. What's happening? I'm so careful. And yet all the things that I was doing ended up being very wrong for me at that time in my life. And what I switched to, and it was because I heard Dr. Jordan Peterson on a podcast. I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast, but he was talking about the carnivore lifestyle. And he was specifically talking about mold toxicity and healing from chronic inflammatory response syndrome caused by mold. And it's all those symptoms that I had when I had mold toxicity. And he said the best thing for people who are dealing with SARS and mold toxicity is to go on the carnivore lifestyle. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And he was talking about this, mostly red meat, these ruminant animals. So, it was biblical. He was talking about, the animals that chew their cud and have a split hoof, and eating lots of those animals. So cow and goat and lamb. And then he talked about removing vegetables, which was shocking to me. I thought vegetables were so good for you. And yeah.
Exactly. Coming from plant-based, yes. So that is a key factor here, is about talking about the vegetables that we think are doing the real healthy thing to do, to eat. But I would imagine that, because you mentioned you're omnivore, you didn't necessarily say you were all the way carnivore, correct?
Now I am carnivore,
Yeah.
but back then, 2 years ago, when I thought I was doing all the right things, I would say I was eating 20% lean meats. I would eat red meat maybe once a week because I was so careful. I thought I was going to hurt my health or cause heart disease if I ate red meat. Later, all of these limiting beliefs or these ideas that I had about what is healthy changed for me. And I saw the changes rapidly when I did take a 30-day challenge after listening to that podcast with Dr. Jordan Peterson saying, hey, take the 30-day carnivore challenge. And so I did. And I just ate red meat and I ate butter. So lots of animal fats, tallow, butter, ghee. And I did it for 30 days. And here's some things I noticed within just a couple weeks. So a couple weeks in, the many years of gut issues that I had, this was gas, bloating, horrible pain after eating, just being doubled over, that I was told in conventional medicine, oh, that's normal. Like when you eat lots of vegetables, you just live with pain like that and you get bloated. And that just means the vegetables are working. And wow. I always thought that, am I supposed to be in pain and having all this gas and bloating? Is my body right now telling me that it likes this? Because I'm like doubled over and I'm just in horrible pain. Is this the way my body tells me I like it? And I thought, no, it's like my body's trying to tell me something different. And so 2 weeks into the carnivore lifestyle with all these plant materials removed and eating all this high fat and high animal fat and protein, I noticed in 2 weeks, all those gut issues were gone in 2 weeks.
Wow. See, that's amazing to me. And looking at other people, not just you, but about the fat, because we're afraid to eat high fat. Okay. I mean, generally, because we were raised differently, right? And told, oh, you're putting too much butter in your food, heart problems, you're going to have issues. But how did you make that decision to really transition? Was it the 2 weeks or the 30 days you gave it to see, that all these illnesses were decreasing? Right?
Oh, it was incredible that after 30 days, the brain fog was gone. I had energy. I just started to feel more like myself. And that was enough of an experiment for me to be like, all right, I took the 30-day challenge. Should I go back to when I was feeling awful and get all my gut issues and brain fog and everything back? Or do I continue? And within 3 months, so of course I chose to continue, I started to see lean muscle mass returning. And because I also had energy and I was doing a lot more research, I started to shift how I was exercising. And instead of focusing on that cardio, crazy rat race, I focused more on strength training. And when we build muscle, so when we build muscle in our bodies, this now becomes part of our endocrine system. And so having lots of muscle means also that we're going to have better sugar control, better insulin control. And so I started noticing the belly fat going away. And something else that also contributed to the belly fat going away is that high fat, and this has to be animal fat, not plant fat. So, there you go. See, that was 2 years ago on that omnivore. I was doing all the things, eating lean meats, eating vegetables, drinking my morning smoothie, drinking lots of oxalates, which were junking up my mitochondria, wreaking havoc on my system. And then that was just 3 months into the carnivore lifestyle. That was me. That was a picture of me just after doing carnivore for 3 months. So,
and were you doing the strength training at the same time in that 3 months that with taking this photo?
Yes. So I started with just what I could do. I made a rule with myself. I'm going to put my gym bag in the car because I joined a gym. I'm going to put my gym bag in the car, and I'm not allowed to go home until I visit the gym. And that was like my rule. And it didn't matter how long I was there, just as long as I went there. And so it started off with like 20 minutes. And once my energy came back and once the inflammation went down, I found myself there for an hour, and I don't overdo it. So I give myself 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not spending all day, every day in the gym, but I'm in there strength training about 4 days a week. And I started to notice some big changes, and also increasing my fat, because the animal fat helped to rebalance my hormones. So it was the building, the muscle turning into fat, the fat turning into muscle. It was that now I was giving my body some proper nutrients that it obviously was needing in order to boost my energy. And then that was helping also because I was staying away from plant material and the oxalates, which were really messing me up, as you can see there in this picture in my face.
Yeah, and we want to go back to oxalates, and if you can explain that to the audience too, because some may have just heard it for the first time, and others maybe just know just a touch. I know a little bit, but specifically, I would imagine looking at your own testing yourself and you're experimenting that maybe there's certain vegetables that may not have a highest level of oxalate that people do fine with versus not. So love for you to explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So we've been told that all vegetables are good for us, and then we're even told that certain superfood vegetables, like they've even been categorized as superfoods, things like spinach, almonds, and almond flour, Swiss chard, cashews, the top of beets, kale's kind of up there as well. So these are vegetables that have a very high oxalate content. And these are natural substances that are found in plants, in these certain plants. And they actually have like little glass crystals in them. And these can wreak havoc on us at the cellular level. They can cause joint pain. They can cause kidney issues. So they are behind kidney stones and people having lots of pain and urinary issues. So if somebody, for example, has tested, oh, you don't have a bladder infection, but you do have blood in your urine, but we don't know why. It might be oxalates. And so in the testing that I do now in my practice, I do a specific functional cellular testing, and 3 of the biomarkers, actually 5 of the biomarkers on that test are looking at oxalates. Are oxalates part of the problem? Are they causing mitochondrial dysfunction? Could they be behind the joint pain and the brain fog and the muscle aches? And so if anyone's interested in learning more about oxalates, there's an oxalate expert out there, and her name is Sally Norton. And she wrote a book called Toxic Superfoods. And I highly recommend reading this book, or even looking up Sally Norton on YouTube to become a little more educated on oxalates. Now, not all vegetables have oxalates, and there are other anti-nutrients or toxins that are in plants, because plants don't have feet. So they can't run in the wild. So if an animal's coming to eat them, what do they have to protect themselves? Chemicals. Poison.
To fight and defend themselves, right?
Yeah, that's all they're doing. They don't want to be eaten. So these chemicals can cause problems in our bodies. Now, if we ate small doses of them, we might be okay. It's just that we've lived through a generation of I'll just have a big salad. Remember Elaine and
Yeah.
Seinfeld? The whole
Yeah.
big salad idea, and we're just overdoing and then juicing. Think how much spinach is going into that, and then even in
I did a lot of it.
almonds,
Did a lot of
you've
it.
got
Yeah.
arsenic in almonds. That's another chemical that is, found in almonds. And then when we sit there and we're just sitting in front of the TV and we're eating a half a bag of almonds, we just probably ate like a lethal dose of arsenic. So we really need to be careful and just more educated on what is considered a nutrient and an actual like nutrient dense food, and what it turns out that the most nutrient dense, cleanest food on the planet is grass fed, grass finished beef.
See, and that might be very alarming to some of the people watching today, but this is such good information, and this is why we're always learning and finding out the answers. But I do have a question here going back to the diet, about a question here from Keisha, and how does the omnivore diet affect you? Cancer remission. So she feels like she eats too much fats.
Well, so the fats that heal us, and so the best fuel for our mitochondria is actually animal fats. So ketones, and when we burn these ketones, that's the cleanest fuel for our body to burn. Because when we burn things that aren't clean, because we could like eat for survival, and we could eat lots of sugar, or we could eat plants as like our survival food, but that's not going to burn clean if you think about it as like exhaust or cars. So we could put unleaded, cheap unleaded gasoline in our car. We might run for a while, but there's going to be smoke billowing out the back, and it's just not going to burn clean. And there's going to be a lot of byproducts that are created in that struggle to create ATP at the cellular level. And when we're burning ketones, that animal fat, and we're in ketosis and we're burning this clean fuel, it's clean and efficient. So it's not producing all those byproducts, which would lead to oxidative stress. There are new studies that are out, just it takes a little bit of research, that the keto lifestyle and going into being in ketosis actually stimulates something called autophagy. Mm-hmm. And so this is our cellular cleanup. This can also be done when we fast and give our digestion a break, so that our cells can be like, all right, I don't need to digest food, but now I can be like, what else needs to be done around here? Oh, I can clean up house and start, cleaning up and this autophagy. But even just being in ketosis, mm-hmm. which we're finding is our natural state, because during that time when we're in ketosis and we're burning the fat as fuel efficiently, our bodies can do that cellular cleanup. We're burning fuel efficiently, and mm-hmm. our minds are thinking. We don't have food noise where it's like, oh, I'm hungry again. You're not hungry. You're not hungry because you've taken care of your nutritional needs, right? And your body is full. You can't eat too much fat.
And this is why intermittent fasting is such a big deal here, because if we eat the right way when we break the fast is just as important as doing the actual fasting. And how do we feed the hormones properly? And I have another question here that's been brought up about how it affects.
Oh, I love this question.
Yeah. and in menopause especially. So, and I understand, and I feel your pain, being on these different types of medications that the doctors give us, and so what would you say to this, Tali, if that's something that
this question.
You say you love that question. You see it a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I love this question, and I've done a lot of research on this, because this is what I sold, was a statin. So I was in this world thinking that, cholesterol was bad. It turns out that cholesterol is actually very important to our bodies. And so when there was a study that came out about a year and a half ago, and it was a meta-analysis. So this is like a kind of after the fact, looking at multiple studies and seeing the results like over time, over multiple studies. So it looked at millions of people. And it found that people who had the highest LDLs lived the longest. So the higher the cholesterol levels, the longer that people lived. And this was not what they wanted to see. And it's like, oh, well, what's going on here? So let's break this down. Cholesterol is very important for the body. Now, when you eat plant, like seed oils or plant sterols, so plant fats, those are not the building blocks for our cells, for our hormones, because we're not plants. So seed oils are not good for you. They actually junk up our cells and our mitochondria. They're highly inflammatory. And they lead to lots of disease states. It takes 2.5 years for them to leave the body. So don't, think twice about eating these seed oils. So by seed oils, I'm talking about like canola oil, vegetable oil, margarine, grapeseed oil, like all of these, soybean oil. So animal fats. We're animals. When we eat animals, which is cholesterol, that's the building block of animal fats. This is also the building block of our cells. Right. So we need cholesterol for our cells to be created. We also need cholesterol for hormone creation. So as we're lowering cholesterol, now we have all these people who have hormonal imbalances. We have men also with low testosterone. Not to mention that eating lots of plants also has phytoestrogen. So it has estrogen mimicking nutrients in it or chemicals in it. Mm-hmm. And so those are also messing things up. So flax seeds, chia seeds, soy, all of these have very high phytoestrogens that can cause hormone imbalances. But back to the cholesterol, which is also important for vitamin D synthesis. So we know vitamin D is a hormone, and it's very important for our health and our immune system. Cholesterol also has been shown to have anti-cancer properties. So when we lower our cholesterol, we are increasing our chances of getting cancer. So the information that I'm sharing with you is documented, and you can find it. Here's a great book to read. You can get it on Amazon. It's called The Great Cholesterol Myth. Oh, I have it right here because I just love this book. So here's The Great Cholesterol Myth. Fantastic book with a lot of this information. So when we look at our numbers, the numbers that really matter are how our metabolic health meets our cardiovascular health. And so the numbers to look at for that are our triglycerides to our HDL. Okay. And you want a 2-to-1 ratio or less. And this triglycerides are fueled by diet. So when we eat lots of sugars and carbohydrates, that's going to raise our triglycerides. When we lower that from our diet, that's going to lower our triglycerides. So we want a 2-to-1 ratio or less of triglycerides to HDL.
Well, I happen to have my HDL and triglyceride. Maybe you can tell me, because I HDL is 77, and then, but my triglycerides are 87.
That's good. So triglycerides,
good, but I'm always, of course, the doctor's always looking at my LDL, which is 101. They call that high.
So what you can do at your next visit is you can bring this book with you, get a copy, bring this book.
Definitely.
And see if your doctor is interested in learning more about the ratio between triglycerides and HDL and how there's a 16-fold risk reduction if you have numbers like what you have as far as your ratio.
That's good to know. I mean, I certainly will, because it's always a battle about, whether or not, just like the lovely lady here and asked about statins and being trying to push the statins. And,
Mm-hmm.
I have two parents that both had strokes when they were in their 50s. So statin is one of those things they're on, right? Especially since the strokes, but it's been many years since, and what do? I mean, you can't just start taking them off of things and, the body reacts. But what you can do is to make sure that you don't go in the same path, and to, be an example to the rest of your family of what health looks like.
Yes.
That's
And something,
in the lifestyle, right? The exercise.
yeah, and people need to know that there are risks with statins. Something that isn't talked about much is that it reduces your natural levels of coenzyme Q10. And this is a very, very important antioxidant in the body. And it is something that is necessary for mitochondrial function. So they're not talking about this at least in conventional medicine. If they're putting people on statins, then they should put people on a high dose of coenzyme Q10 along with that.
Yes, absolutely. This is one of your followers on Facebook.
Yes, yeah. Becky brought up a great point. Isn't cholesterol good for your brain, and can it reduce your chance of Alzheimer's? And yes, so your brain is comprised of cholesterol. So as we've had this statination, something that we have seen overall is that there's been a rise in Alzheimer, dementia, neurological disorders, and of course, curious minds want to know. About this link, and there is information about that also in this book. So I'm just quoting information that has been studied and is in this fantastic book. And there's lots of other resources and studies that are out there online as well. Now, as far as the cholesterol and connection to the brain, there are different types of statins out there on the market. The ones that are lipophilic, meaning fat loving, or being able to cross the blood-brain barrier, those have been shown to have a higher chance of causing brain fog, possibly having that link with Alzheimer's and so forth, than the ones that are hydrophilic. But I'm not saying that there's a good statin out there. I just think that there are better ways. First, control your metabolic health. That once you get your metabolic health under control, then that is going to, because that's the biggest link, that's going to be something that's going to reduce risk and address mitochondrial dysfunction and address systemic inflammation in the body.
That's fascinating. When someone's talking about Alzheimer's and brain health in general, we had this discussion a little bit beforehand, but you had mentioned eating more fat is the key to good brain health. And of course, good type of fat, right? And whether it's butter, tallow, or what's in the meats, things like that. Now, is this something when in your diet as a carnivore, when it comes down to carbs? Now, I don't necessarily track everything, but I'm a high protein eater and a low carb diet right now. My question,
how you feeling?
I feel better than I did on plant-based, so I'm getting there. And because I've actually taken, and that brings us to your test, is the test that to get some of the answers and see what else is going on in directions that I need to go in. But about cellular health is we call it the organic acid test.
Yes.
If you like to share that, I just took my organic acid test, in which I do know it is urine based and urine test. And so I sent that kit back in, and you sent me. So if you like to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is a test that is not used in conventional medicine. So this is on the functional side of things, and it's looking at root causes throughout the body, but with a focus from the cellular health perspective. And so it is a urine test. It's looking at 76 different biomarkers. Real simple. You just pee in a cup and you send it to the lab. And then we look at these metabolites that fall into your urine, these organic acids. And it's like a foreign language. You've never seen biomarkers like this before. It's very mysterious, very interesting. And the test is broken down into different compartments, but everything is connected and speaks to other portions of the test because everything in our body is connected. That's how we see things in functional health or from a root cause approach, as opposed to conventional medicine where everything is just compartmentalized. Like that's why there's a cardiologist and a rheumatologist and a gynecologist, and nobody's talking to anybody, and nobody sees that all the body parts are all connected.
Correct.
So the functional perspective is different. And so in this test, we're able to see your gut health. So able to see if there's any mycotoxins that are released by mold, able to see fungus, yeast overgrowth, and even bacterial, certain bacteria. And those things might even influence neurotransmitters. So that speaks to the gut-brain connection. So if you have a lot of those things that are going on in your gut, chances are your neurotransmitters aren't going to be working properly. And there's a neurotransmitter section on the test. There's also oxalates. So if oxalates are junking things up, then we'll be able to see that. And here's something to note, that if you have mold, bacteria, fungus that's happening in your gut, those release their own oxalic acid. And so you're going to have high oxalic acid, and that's going to be a problem, because it's like you've got a little factory in your gut where these oxalates are pretty much being created in your body, and that needs to stop because that can lead to brain fog and joint pain and all those symptoms. You can see mitochondrial dysfunction, so how well your mitochondria are using nutrients to make energy. I can see nutrient deficiencies, so vital nutrients like B vitamins and CoQ10 and glutathione, and even see methylation. So how well are you detoxifying at the cellular level, and what could possibly be blocking that? So there's so many discoveries, so many things that are found in this test, and that gives the answers, that root cause of, now I know why you are so tired, or why your joints hurt, or why your hair's falling out, or why you're aging rapidly. It's all right here. We can see it, and then we can start to address it.
And why I have this phenomenon and you understand it, but I have no problem sharing that to the audience. It's vibrating. So I vibrate. And that has been a phenomenon to every doctor. I've probably been to about 12 doctors about it because, again, right doesn't talk to the left, gastrointestinal, you're going all these different departments, OBGYN, and it's just a phenomenon. And so I think there's something to it to see, what's going on, not only with what I'm doing and putting in my body, but also what have I been dragging for years and years, that's
and
in my gut. Right. So
we talked about this because I shared with you that I knew exactly what you were talking about when you were describing this vibrating, and that it happens at night. It can wake you up in the middle of the night, and you literally feel like something inside your body is literally vibrating, and it's an
like a cell phone.
Factor to it, because it's like, what is going on? And I had that. I remember, I had that, and I shared with you, I know exactly what you're feeling, and it was due to a lot of the things that were going on in my gut that were also affecting my nervous system and causing that dysregulation and kind of that vibration because things were off balance.
Yeah, the nervous system is the very interesting part of the body that I'm very curious to get to the bottom of. And so that's why I'm looking forward to the results and going over this with you and consulting with you. Now, you also, I wanted you to share a little bit about your upcoming webinar that you have, and how people can find you as well, and anything else you'd like to share with that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that opportunity too. September 3rd, which is a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that's 5 p.m. Your time, Reggie.
Right.
And I'm leading a live 1-hour webinar, and it's like a master class on aging. And so it's about those lies that we have been led down as far as what is behind aging, and really the focus on the truth about aging, and then just some things that you can do with that knowledge as far as taking charge of your health and slowing the effects of aging, because knowledge is power. And then when we take it to the next level, it's putting action to that knowledge and really taking action and taking charge of our health. That's when things change. So I'll be leading that webinar September 3rd live, and the link, I believe you're going to be sharing the link. So there is a registration for it, but everyone's welcome, men, women, just sign up and be part of the party. It's like part of a movement. So let's start to make change in true health, and, you know, making people healthy again. So
absolutely. The bottom line is taking our health in our own hands. And I think we're all on the same page with that, and finding out what's going on specifically within our own body, whatever that looks like. We have different ailments. I get it. At the same time, I think everyone is on the pathway of finding truth without having all the noises that we're getting, and getting so much conflicting information. It's nerve-wracking, literally, hence my vibration, right?
right. Right.
Before you go, there was one more question here about, does it include palm oil, when we're talking about the oils that are poisonous to our bodies that we should not eat?
I would simply stick, I would simply stick to the nutrient density of animal fats, because that is the building blocks of what we're talking about today, which is hormone balance in our cells. So the plants don't have those raw materials that help us to make that.
Very good. No, Tali, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on to this broadcast. And we know it's a little early for a lot of people on the West Coast, but at the same time, you can catch the replay. So please do check out the whole video, because there's a lot of nuggets that Tali has dropped in here that we, women and men, need to check out when it comes to a metabolic health and getting optimum health and longevity in general. Don't we want to live well? And then at the end of our life, we still want to be able to walk and talk freely and not have all the aches and pains? I think we do. And and Tracy had mentioned that recovering from breast implant illness also, and definitely those that have gone through that and or still have these issues going on and maybe can't figure it out, and maybe that's the culprit.
Mm-hmm.
Please do listen to this video and follow Tali.
Yes,
so thank
absolutely.
you again, Tali.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And if somebody wants to even reach out, they can find me on social media under Tali Kentof, or also Learn You Live Better. So Learn You, like the letter U, Live Better, or at learnu.live.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure that the link is in the description box, guys. And we will not let her get away. She's a gem.
Well, Reggie, I'll be seeing you one-on-one soon.
Yes, looking forward to it. And yes, and we will share. I'll share maybe a clip or something out of it about my results on the test. If you guys are looking for information to see what it really entails, I'll share a little bit of that in the next video, or the video after I actually receive it. It takes about 3 weeks, right? It's been only a couple of days that I sent my test back in.
We're in the waiting period. We're waiting for the lab to get yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching. And remember, you can begin again. Don't forget. Cheers.